Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and we have yet another humble bundle of interest to game developers. Actually, it's been a few weeks. We haven't had anything for a while, and this one is pure game development related. This one is a collection of tools and assets for game development, mostly Sprite stuff. But in terms of the tooling, some very interesting things here. Now, this is also one of the more expensive bundles I've seen yet, with a USD $40 top tier price on it. And it is the Grand Game Dev Toolbox. Now, it's organized into tiers. You're probably going to either buy the $1 tier or the full tier. So I'm not going to really pay a lot of attention to the way the tiers are organized. And I'm going to focus mostly on the software in this bundle. So we're going to do a quick look at what is in this, and then we're going to jump into some of the software. So if you don't know, the way Humbles work is you can send your money however you want between the publisher, Humble, charity, and if you so choose to do, and thank you so much if you do, to support Game from Scratch. Again, it is organized into tiers. The tiers the pricing doesn't make a lot of sense. You either get $1 and you get all these little assets here, which includes some nice character pack icons here, as well as a number of like lower 8 16-bit style sprites, a couple of music packs, and so on. And then we got a ton in the middle, but we're going like $30 and $37, and you're getting none of the software. So I don't think anyone's going to buy at that tier. You would probably buy at the full fat tier, this $50 Canadian or $40-ish US tier. And here you're getting 4 pieces of software. Each one of these basically has a retail price around that amount anyway. So if you want one of the pieces of software, think about it as getting all of the rest of them and all of the assets for free. So you're getting these 4 pieces of software. We're going to look at each one very quickly, hands-on, in just a second, as well as some special effects stuff. These are Effectseer. I did a video on Effectseer in the past, but Effectseer file format, particle systems. We got some more music pack containers. I really like the Sprite style of the Japan collection stuff. And we get some PV Games style tiles, isometric style tiles. Here we get a mega isometric style pack, more of the tiny packs, some battle packs. If you're not using the RPG style games, the battle packs are going to be of no use to you. But you're getting a ton of different content in here, sprites and sprite packs and so on. We'll look at a few of those in action in a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do now is focus on these 4 pieces of software. So we have RPG Tools. Again, this has a €50 price tag on itch.io itself. This is kind of, it's the coolest and most frustrating tool in the package. We're going to see in a second. We have Sprite Illuminator for illuminating multiple sprites. I'll show you how this works in just a second. We have PixelMash, a pixel art and animation sprite editor. And then finally, we have Camerabag, which in all honesty, it's kind of a more generic photo editor. It's a bit of a throw-in at this point in time. So let's go take a look at each one of these. So first, we've got Sprite Illuminator. This is pretty straightforward in what it does. Let me just come back here and get out of full screen so I have my start bar back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, go to my downloads folder, and we're going to drop in a sprite. So obviously, if you had multiple sprites, you could drop them in here and do full animation. So you could export out animated versions here. But what you're ultimately doing here is relighting your sprites. So you see here, you've got a light source in play. There is your character sprite, and you can basically put the sprite in. So I'll zoom in a bit here. You can see the effect of the light. So if you have multiple sprites and you want to have lighting for them, you can handle it this way. Now, on top of that, there's some other neat functionality here as well. So for example, we can actually do edits to this guy. So right now we're seeing the lighting effects on this guy. So if I want to do like an embossing, I can emboss this sprite. So you see the emboss effect. Come on, there you see. You're seeing it being embossed over there, and we can smooth out the embossing level, and then we'll apply that. So what you're seeing here is, if I come over here, we'll see a normal map. It's actually creating a normal map for the lighting to work against. So now if we go back to the lit texture, that embossing is actually going to influence how our lighting works. We've also got some brushes and tools here, so we could add some. So if I want to do like a texturing over top, so if I want to say give him chainmail in a certain area. So let's say we wanted to treat this part of his back as chainmail over here, and his arm there as chainmail. We can overlay it with this one. And by the way, you got control over the hardness of this particular brush, so the effects of the chainmail. Unfortunately, with a black sprite, it's a little bit harder to tell. See if one of these will be more obvious. Here, I'll do a really obvious one. We'll do reptile here. So let's add some scaling effect. And then what you do is you go over here, you look at the normal map, and this is actually influencing the normal, which then is, when we change the lighting here, that texturing that we put on is all going to be applied and work. So it kind of gives you a 3D look to 2D sprites. Now again, you can drag multiple sprites in here. Unfortunately, you can't bring in a sprite sheet, but you can have as many sprites as you want, and it will apply the lighting across all of them. You've also got control over how the lights are applied, the ambient lighting, the light color, and so on. We've also got some tools here for defining shapes. We could set the angle that we wish to work at. I don't know if we paint with the angle as well. And so on. So you can also set the height. So again, this is affecting the normal map. So we can basically raise things up. So cause more light's going to be influenced. So let's add a whole bunch of hardness. And let's just do a really profound shape. So we're painting the height map directly there. And if we go back to the light, we'll see that the light will now reflect that particular bit of height. So that is Sprite Illuminator, a really kind of neat tool for adding kind of dynamic lighting, well, not dynamic, but for adding lighting to multiple sprites. You're basically creating a 3D object here, creating a normal map on top of it, and then applying that lighting as you put it in the scenes to that particular oops, I'm actually painting still. So let's go here. So you can have your dynamically lit sprites from here, export them out as a sprite sheet. Simple enough. And then boom, it's done. Or we can export it out as an animation. You can pick the number of frames and so on that you wish to export out, and boom, there they go. So if you have multiple sprites, you want to light them and animate them, that's what Sprite Illuminator is all about. Kind of a cool tool. Next up, we have Camerabag Photo. This one is really kind of straightforward. So we're going to load an image in here. I have one in my downloads already. This is basically just a photo editor of sorts. So you got to, it's very simple to work with. So if you want to crop your tooling or so on, or if we just want to come straight out preset, so you can come in here and we could just apply an overall result. So we want to make this guy black and white, we can do so like so. Everything, there's Control Z, undo, redo for everything. Or you could come in and handle things the basics. So if you want to handle the exposure on something, you can do so like there, or you can do multi-tool where you can do a number of things at once. So I can change the contrast, I can change the saturation, and I can change the exposure. So if you need to do some image editing, it's a neat tool in that regard. So that's your basics right there. We could do advanced lighting, so we could change the shadowing and highlights here. So you can change the shadow, the midtones, shadowing, highlights. I use a tool called Luminar to do this kind of stuff, but there's a ton of things out there for doing this sort of work. I guess kind of you've got something like Lightroom-ish equivalent, but the thing about this guy is it's one of the simplest you're going to find to work with. And then we got some advanced options here for advanced coloring work. We got some photographic effects, so we want to add a vignette effect. We can easily do so. It's pretty straightforward in what it's all about, because that there is Camerabag. So basically it's like a top-level photo image manipulation kind of program. Next up, we have PixelMash. Now, PixelMash is from the same company, which, by the way, is the company that makes Silo, the 3D modeling tool. And this one's actually kind of neat. You can work in standard pixel art resolutions, or you can use like a dynamic art, which basically is you're making pixel art, but so you're creating at a higher resolution, but the pixel art, so I'm making 32 by 32 pixel art, but it's actually 320 by 320, the object resolution. And here we go. So we're treating a fat bid grit for painting our pixels. You got straightforward painting tools here at the top, and we've also got a masked brush here for painting over existing layers. We've got basic shapes available here. I don't know how to change them. Okay, but I'll just do a standard brush over here. You see, I can control. Why am I trapped to my layer? All right, so over here, I do have control over various different color palettes. We have some neat color palette tools, which is one of those things that people often work with. So let's say we want to go ahead, we'll add that to our color palette. I can add this guy to my color palette as well. So now I've got these two different colors here, but I can actually grab these two right here, and I could come up here and say Tool, make a gradient, and let's do 7 steps between those, and then boom, and it's going to gradient between those different palettes, which is definitely a neat little tool if you're working with a fixed palette. We've also got some tools for reducing down to a specific palette set. You can have it sort out. You can export the palette or import a fixed palette. So if you are working with, you know, a retro style 16-bit or 32-bit, sort of 32 pixel or 32 color palette, for example, you can do so that way. Otherwise, tools are pretty straightforward. We're going to do here again a paint tool, and I'm just going to draw a circle-ish thing. All right, there we go. So there is our simple circle. You see over here we have various different effects we can apply to it. We can change the opacity and so on. We can parent things. We can have, so we do have layering support here. So you can see the layers right here. We can build, so if you wanted to make a character have like upper arm, lower arm, etc. You can do so in the layering systems available right here. Now, interestingly enough, everything looks like it's grayed out. It's just a UI decision. I do not know why they did that, but you can hire layers together like so on. These are not grayed out. That's just a bad decision in my humble opinion. Again, you can delete things like this as well. I just deleted the wrong thing. All right, so let's go create our ball again. All right, there we go. So our ball is created. We can also add effects. This actually gets kind of cool. So we could do a gradient on it. We could add some particle effects on it. We could add some text in. We could remap the color. We could have it automatically shade, which is kind of for giving you that pixelish coloring look. You can change the way that the shading actually works, like so. And then we could do something like adding a drop shadow in, like that. So that is the basics of it. It's a straightforward pixel image editor. It's got a really straightforward style workflow to it. The only thing I don't like is, again, the things are dark gray, so it looks like they're grayed out. And then we can get into the animations. Right now we have a single frame going on here. Let's go ahead and add another frame. So there's the first one. I'm going to do is image key on this guy. You can also do it based on transformations, etc. And now what I'm going to do is basically just... So we have all of the same effects still being drawn. All right, there we go. And now we're going to just do one more frame, same thing. And now let's draw that guy in. And you see my special effects are all being applied. So I'm getting that drop shadow and that shading across the board on all of these things. And there we go. We've just created a 3-frame animation. You can change the frame playback rate right there. And we'll go ahead and preview our animation in action. Come on, there we go. So there is an animated multi-frame. We can actually set it to look at different resolutions. We can have it look at the native 32 by 32. And then when you are happy with what you got, oh, by the way, you can also show onion skinning. So between frames, what the previous frame did and so on. And then you can export out. You can export multiple different frames of animation into a single image file. Pretty straightforward on the whole. So it is a pixel image art/animation tool where it really shines. Again, multiple layers, animation built in. Full palette control over here. Pretty straightforward user interface. And what I probably like the best is these various different special effects you want to go in here. So if you want to go, I could dither out the result, get a completely different result there. And then you got the animation tools built in. So there you see, you can create some really cool pixel art in PixelMash pretty easily. And it's got a modern UI. A lot of things I don't like about a lot of these pixel editors is they also go with pixely user interfaces. I don't know why that is a design decision people go with, but it is. So that there is PixelMash. And then finally, we get to RPG tools. Now, RPG tools are by far and away the most intriguing part of this and the most frustrating part of this, because some of this UI is it's a challenge. So when you get it, you get basically three sets of sprites and such to work with, like to start off with, and then you get the tools themselves. So I'm going to grab the tools, we'll extract them out, and there's a bit of a setup involved in this. So basically just go load RPG tools. Now you're going to find the interface, I'm running it in 4K. It's very hard to show you. You can scale up the interface, but it really breaks a lot of things. So unfortunately, I'm going to make you squint at a lot of what we're going to do here. My apologies, because otherwise, again, you could come in here to File, Preferences, and scale it up. It just doesn't look good. So I'm going to go here, Template, and we're going to go create a new project from their example project template, like so. Pick a location for it. So, of course, this is going to have to go in my temp folder because that is the way. So we'll put it in RPG demo. All right, and then click OK. And now we have a new project. Now, the challenge is going to be here. You need to take those original assets, those other files that you downloaded. I grabbed the 3 different packs and I extracted them out to the zip file. Now, I'm running into a bit of an issue here. So you can see you've got a lot of tools built into RPG tools here. So, for example, you see character editor, level editor, data editor, UI editor, and particle editor. I'm only going to show you 2 of those in action. UI editor enables you to basically create UIs using a variety of different icons and so on, which is actually kind of neat. Particle systems is for creating particle effects. And you got a number of different controls over there. So, for example, I could switch this end particle to purple. All right, so we should now get a purple in there. So there you see the effects. We're going from red to purple. You can change the angle, the speed, the radius, and so on of your particle systems. You can attach them to something and make them isometric. So that's a thing. I don't know that a lot of people are going to be using the particle editor. What most people would probably be using are the level editor and the character editor. Now, I'm going to show you the character editor first because, quite frankly, whatever I'm about to do is going to break the other tool. So it's a little bit frustrating. So what you need to do is load in the image files. And what it says is to download those files and put them all in a folder, which I've done. So you see here we've got these 3 different packs of things, creatures, characters, and tiles. I'm going to put them all in the data folder, and we'll say, OK, we are good to go. So let's load that up. And there we go. All right, so here is this tool. Well, this tool basically is for creating characters, both animated characters and like paper doll style dynamically. So as you see here, we've got this female base mesh. There's 3 or 4 different base meshes. So you see here, we got 3 female, 3 male, a cat, a dog, a dragonfly, a rat, a wolf, an ogre, and so on. So I can pick one of these things. I can switch out to a different base character mesh, like so. So I'm going to go back to the first female one, and we can basically pick different portraits in terms of happiness, sadness, so on. And now we can start building this character out. So we can give her a head item or hair. We can give her some pants. We can give her a top, and there is our base character. But now this is so far only giving character equipment specifically for this character. What I could do here is come on down here and give bottom. So this is men's pants. So you see they're not fitting quite as well. So that is definitely one of the challenges. You can take things and put them in or out and so on. You can add weapons in. So let's give her a bow. And there you see you now have a bow for this character. And we could then swap between the various different portrait thoughts, like so. Or what we can do is start using these animations. So let's do, if there's actually, okay, so here's a bow attack 1. And now what you're going to do is get a character sprite for this character. Come on. Please don't crash. Okay, there we go. All right, so here you see our character. So you can use this to create character sprites. And come down here, you see some various different settings. So we can scale the size. So it's very hard to see right now. So let's scale this up to 200%, so you see a little bit better. So this is for creating animated sprite sheets, which is kind of neat. So you got 4 different frames of animation to work from. And you're basically building up paper dolls. Now, I should assume you should be able to make your own sprite art and add it to this mix. It should just be pulling it from those files. And you can control the various different settings. So the UI is not immediately obvious sometimes. So we got the bow attack, and then the bow attack has settings down here. So you can change out settings for it. So looping or don't loop, the speed to play it at. And then we've also got controls down here, I think. No, it's not. So you got various different options for the various different attacks. So instead of animation, for example, we wanted to do her doing walk with a one-handed item. There you see. You can switch it to a walk animation instead. And then again, you come down here, you can control the speed of that walk animation. So let's do 0.01. All right, there. Speeding on walks. So there you see, you've got control, and you use this to create a variety of different sprite sheets. You can create it from multiple different directions. Where is that controlled? Is that controlled here, or is it controlled here? I think game animation. Oh, no, that's the ultimate game animation it's going to create. But basically, you can change it for the orientation or the direction of animation, so I can do a left and a right walk and so on. So that is what this tool, the character side of it, is about, is creating these animated characters out of basically paper dolls, or you're creating portrait-style characters out of them as well. So that is the character side of the tool. When you're done and like what you've done, you can go ahead and do an export out here. Pick all of the various different frames of animations you want exported out, where you want them to go, and it will export it ready for use in your game. So you can use this as a character style generator. And then the other tool we have in here is the level editor. Now I'm going to load up the level editor, and you can see by default we get we get a number of examples created for us. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to load up town. So load the town level, and you see it doesn't work. We get some effects. We get like some of the particle system effects, which, by the way, you could create in the attached particle creator, but we don't get the images we want. So what I actually have to do is come down here and change my image path to the subdirectory, which will then cause the character creator tool to break. So when I switch back and forth, I have to keep changing the directory to choose. I don't know why this is, but that has been my experience. So I'm going to go here, pick the tiles manually, and then boom, we're good to go. And now you can see my level editor in action. And this is probably one of the most intriguing parts of this tool. If you use something like tiled or LTDTK or whatever the heck it's called, you'll have an idea what you're dealing with. But this is actually a pretty nice tool. You're basically creating levels across a number of different layers. You do have control over how those layers work, but there's much more to this than that. So we can actually come here. So we're doing tiling right now. I can switch out the ground tile to work with. Oh, I got to make sure I'm in the ground tile layer. All right, so tiles. I should be in the right layer. Place tile. Yeah, so there you see. So it's layering over top. I don't know how to zoom, unfortunately, other than up here. You can zoom in this way. But see, I can actually start, and you're blending the various different tiles together. So let's go down here, pick a different one. Let's pick like a, I think this is water. So I'm going to start painting some water in here. Come on, did you select? And this is where the frustrating part comes in. So I don't know that I'm actually getting the tile I want here. Okay. So anyways, this is the frustrating aspect. I find part of this really irritating to work with, and part of it's very nice to work with. So here you got nice animated water. On top of that, I can switch out of tile mode, and we can actually go in, so that's layer. I can mode. I can actually change terrain height, and we can raise and lower terrain. So there is a 3D aspect to this as well. And then we come back in here. So let's say I wanted to do the houses layer. I can start actually placing houses in the world. So you see we've got a number of different houses. I actually, if I scroll this over a little bit, this tool right here will show all the various different houses we've got propagated in the world. So when you grab one, you just, oh, you know what I think it is? I think it just doesn't like being zoomed. All right. So you can actually focus in on and select the house you want, or I can come down here and say, okay, I'm placing objects, filter by, and I just want my houses. So HOU, and then it'll give me all the various different houses. So here is a gate, house, tower. If I want to place this in the world, boom. And boom. And so on. So it can really create interesting levels. Again, you got a number of different layers. You can define them yourselves. You can see here you've got animated water going on as well. Oh, by the way, escape to stop creating stuff. Animated water going on here as well. You can change the overall size of things. You can have it shadowing or not. There's also tools in here for showing physics and so much more. So there is a lot to this particular tool that I haven't dug into yet. But at the same time, I don't know why certain things, like for example, tiles, if I want to place a tile and I want this ground tile and I start, it doesn't, and I don't know, there we go, okay, that time it worked. Maybe I just gotta triple click. Let's see if I get the white tile here. I do like the fact that we get like the blending, but you see how my selection isn't necessarily being what I actually selected. So let's go here, pick this water tile. All right, and I start to paint with it. Okay, so this time it's working. There you see we're getting neat animated water. So it's an interesting tool for sure, but at the same time, it can be quite a frustrating tool to work with. Now, there's some other things in here that are just strange. So you can actually export your game out as long as you've created a playable character, and it'll run. I have no idea what technology it is doing to use that, but for the most part, you're going to be exporting these things out to work with your game of choice. I believe the level editor ultimately exports out as a JSON format. And then again, the final thing that we've got here is a data editor for creating all kinds of, it's almost like they're trying to create an entire RPG Maker style system. And you can edit all of the data here, including audio effects for them. So when you go ahead and create your game of sorts, there's a full database creator here. So you can use this thing as a tool for creating character sprites. You can use it as a tool to create maps, but you can also kind of use it to create proto games, not full games, I would say, but proto games at least. So it's an interesting tool. It's a frustrating tool for sure. I could see how some people could use it in certain areas, especially if you wanted your own map editor or paper doll character style editor. Just be aware some of the UI is a little bit on the clunk side. It doesn't do resolution scaling that well. It can be a bit frustrating to use, but there's a lot of power in there. And some of the problems may actually be user error. So I do have to acknowledge that right off the hop. So that is the tools in the Game Dev Toolbox. So that's my focus on the tools done. We're already plus 20 minutes, so I'm not going to do too much in terms of the assets. You're getting a lot of these things are for RPG Maker style games, and then you get these tiny tail sprite packs. A lot of those are more like an 8-bit, 16-bit style. And I'll show you this overgrown backstreets, so I do like their packs as well. So I'll show you one of the tiny tails. I'll show you one of the overgrown backstreets. When you buy these things, basically you get, they're stored on their servers. So you can see, you can come and download any things you want. So let's say we want to get this tiny tails pack. They're tiny, both in file size and in sprites. Go ahead, open one of these up. Downloads basically instantly. Let's go check the zip file that comes inside. And here you see you get either an RPG Maker format or the original format. and here you're getting a number of different characters with a number of different animations. So it's like, again, retro Nintendo-ish style sprites animated from multiple different directions. So 4 different directions, 3 or 4 frames per. If you're interested, each one has its license attached. Generally, the licenses are super straightforward. You can't say that you own the assets. You can use them in commercial games. You can modify them if you wish. Just basically do not redistribute them as assets. So the licenses are, on the Tiny Tail stuff, quite liberal, quite straightforward. Next up, we've got, again, let's go find one of those Japan collection, not backgrounds, Japan collection, Overgrown Backstreets. All right, so we'll go ahead and download that one. Again, a tiny download here. Let that come down. All right, let's go there. Japan collection, open that one up. Let's go see what we get here. So you're getting tiles, tile maps, and then you're getting it in RPG Maker VX Ace format. So let's just look straight at the tiles. And it's basically tile sets. They're the individual tiles, like so, or you can grab them as tile sets or tile maps, or you have them all in one spot. And so you can use this in, so they're set up for RPG Maker. You can grab them as individual tiles, or you can grab them as a tile map like so. This will work in the Godot game engine or whatever. You can use these to create some really cool results, to be honest. I very much like the art style from these particular people. And then finally, we have something like, what else to show? So tiny packs. There's a lot of the tiny assets. You're getting pretty consistent. Some of it's sound effects. These ones right here, again, are effects-seer file format particle system animations. Yeah, here, we'll go ahead. We'll look at this Apocalypse tiles now. So this is a very large file, 1.8 gigabytes in size. And just to give you an idea, the nice thing is, okay, why did you really cancel? You were downloading. I thought it was so stupid. I'd better not. Oh, no, it's still downloading. Okay. So you can see their servers are reasonably quick. You 30-ish megabytes per second download if you've got a solid connection. So you can actually store things on their servers, no problems at all. And you can download them as you need them. That's one of those nice things. You can download infinite number of times from Humble servers. So you don't need to store or clutter things on your own. I'll just pause while this finishes. All right, so here we go. Zip file is opened. Tile set. Let's open up inside here. You're getting a number of different tiles here. So, for example, barrels. Pretty straightforward, right? Like, if you need barrels for your world, you got barrels. It's nice to have them individual like this. Makes them easy to work with. A number of different buildings here. So if you're going for that Fallout 2 style look, good collection of assets in this pack in that post-apocalyptic style here. So you got a number of different styles and assets and formats here. Now, do keep in mind, some of these, like the Battler stuff, is very much going to be for RPG Maker style games only. It's just not, it's a very specific setting. And then we got some music and sound packs mixed in here as well. So definitely an interesting bundle on the whole. I had to get one on the whole into this video at some point in time, but probably people are here mostly for the software. It's an interesting collection of software. Sprite Illuminator is a cool tool if you need to light sprites. I've covered a couple of tools that did this kind of stuff. There's also, for example, Lighter, L-A-I-G-H-T-E-R, which is, I believe, commercial as well. Then we got PixelMash for doing sprite drawing, animation, special effects, and so on. RPG Tools, a very grandiose package with some really cool tools, but some really frustrating user interface stuff. And then Camerabag Photo for basically just doing bulk image manipulation work in a very easy manner, though, at least. And then we're looking at 55 plus packs and sprites and tiles and music and so on and so forth. A lot of them are this Tiny Tail style, that 16-bit retro style. And then, again, a mix otherwise. So let me know what you think. What was this actually called again? The Grand Game Dev Toolbox Bundle. And again, if you use my link down below, it really helps support the channel, and I appreciate it much. So let me know what you think of this bundle in general, the software included, and the assets that are there, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.